Hello, we're here.
I'm going to go straight in with a quote.
Do it.
About thoughts. We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. So we're quite keen today to chat to you about the power we have to change our life by changing those thought patterns. So how do we do it? That's the big question, isn't it?
Well, it's actually addressing what your thoughts currently are as well. I think that's the first step, isn't it? You know, what was the story you were telling me before about the lady who feels a bit desperate in isolation?
Yes, a client in England who was chatting to me about being in lockdown, and she is in an abusive relationship and lacks self-esteem and self-confidence. So she was saying it's all her fault. But I said to her, actually, you're in an abusive relationship, whereas if you change your thoughts about yourself, you can feel empowered to change your situation. And rather than sitting there in a depression, sitting there feeling hopeless and worthless, if you start to love yourself, listen to some podcasts about finding self-love and say to yourself in the situation, there is nothing wrong with me. I'm in an abusive relationship and I'm going to change myself because I know that I am lovable regardless of what's going on around me. But that's actually quite hard to do, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it starts with like little tiny words like saying, I don't deserve this. Because sometimes when you are in one of them kind of relationships, you can totally think it's your fault. But saying, I don't deserve this. I have never done anything to deserve this. Because we can kind of look back on our past life and think about what have I done to actually be in this? Yeah. Maybe this is all I'm worth. But starting off with very small sentences, I don't deserve this. This is not all I'm here to do. I'm better than this. I'm worthy of love.
Because nobody deserves abuse. And at the end of the day, we can all be horrible people, can't we? We can all show our worst side, but none of us deserve to be abused. So if you're in an abusive situation where you're feeling controlled or manipulated, or there's power games going on, verbal abuse is absolutely awful because that destroys us. Nobody deserves that. So to go in and change the thought patterns from, I have caused this, into, I am lovable and I'm worthy of a relationship that's healthy. Thoughts are really interesting. There's an incredible book by Michael Sinclair called The Untetherable Soul. And it talks about having a resident lodger living in our head, which is our thoughts. And the resident lodger comes in and speaks to us all day long. And it might be a couple of resident lodgers that live with us. And I know, Joe, you talk about we can say things to ourselves that we wouldn't accept a friend saying to us, don't you?
Or we certainly wouldn't say to a friend.
Yeah.
Both, if you think about it both ways, it's really powerful. You know, the words that you speak over yourself, would I say that to a friend? Heck no, because I wouldn't have any friends. And if a friend spoke to me like that, how would I feel? Well, I probably wouldn't be their friend anymore.
Yeah. But we allow the thoughts in our head. And Michael Sinclair talks about being aware, first of all, before we can change our thoughts. He says, be aware of that resident lodger in your head or your roommate and what your roommate is constantly saying to you in a situation. So you go for a walk one day and you see a beautiful couple walking down the street and your resident lodger starts saying, see, you haven't got the relationship that they have because you're ugly, you're never going to have it. You've got failed relationships and you're not beautiful and you'll never look like that. And if only you're beautiful, you could have what they've got. And you hear these voices in your head and he says again and again, just listen to your resident lodger as you're driving down the street. For example, you could be driving down the street and the trees are passing by and the cars are passing by and you watch the odd person. And then suddenly a car is parked or drives past and it's a blue Mustang, which is what your girlfriend's got, and you see a couple in an embrace in the front. So immediately you think that is your girlfriend in the car. And your resident lodger starts to think, yesterday when she didn't call, she was with somebody else. And you go down that train of thought, your resident lodger comes and dominates your mind. And you listen to that resident lodger. Or another resident lodger in your head comes and argues and says, oh, it was stupid. You know, yesterday she loves you, she's being honest. And the first resident lodger says, no, because 2 weeks ago she did A, B, and C. And you have this dialogue going in your head. And he says, just be aware of the thoughts that are coming into your head. Listen to them every day because we can't change them until we know what they are.
Exactly, and that's the first step. Listen to the words that you're saying to yourself. And another quote, we love our quotes, don't we? It says, your mind is filled with old thoughts, mostly someone else's old thoughts. It's time now to change your mind about some things. And basically what that means is, you know, we're brought up by our caregivers, our parents, our family, and we have all of these thoughts put on us, most of them with good intentions, but they're not our actual thoughts. So when you start listening to that resident lodger in your head and then write the words down that it's saying to you, and then really assess it whether you believe those words are true or not. And where does it come from? Is it an old limiting belief? Is it something that maybe your mum feels? And, you know, we get brought up by our parents, don't we? And we either want to do things the same as them or very, very different. And it's the same with all of these thoughts going on in your head. Most of them have been put on you by your caregivers, your peers, your employers, things that you watch. So you've got to be careful about what information you want to take on board as yours.
It's interesting because as you're speaking, you're triggering thoughts in my head about some people that spoke negatively over me. So as you're listening to this, have a think about what thoughts are being triggered, as Joe says, from our past. People have spoken words over us. So instantly, I go back to school and I had a sister in the year above and a sister in the year below. And they were very academically bright, clever. And so was I, but not in the way that the school wanted me to be in terms of results and what I was putting on paper. So all they said to me every single lesson was, you're not as clever as your two sisters. And I was compared the whole time. And all I heard from every single lesson was, your work's not as good as your sister's. And so instantly I started to program my mind that I wasn't clever. So then I went down the path of, well, I'm not clever at school, so I have to find something else to do. So I played lots of sport and went down the arts route. Later on in life, I discovered actually I was as intelligent as my sisters, maybe a bit more, but they're not listening, so it doesn't really matter. But isn't it interesting? Because then for such a long time, I just thought, so you're going to have to do something that's not anything to do with academia because you're not clever. And from a very young age, I was influenced by those teachers who should never have compared me to anyone else.
No.
So as you're listening to this, what thoughts go back into childhood from what words were spoken over you by parents, by teachers, by friends, by sports coaches, by parents of friends of yours that have actually altered the way you think about yourself? Because that's the first step. And then the second step is actually to break your relationship with those words and change your thoughts about yourself. Because at the end of the day, you know, there's that old saying, isn't it? If you think you can or you think you can't, either way you're going to be right. And it's all down to your thoughts. Your thoughts really control how we behave in life and how the outlook of your life is. So if you think, for instance, just an example, if you think everybody is an asshole, then what kind of, or everybody's angry or everybody's mad at me, what kind of people are you going to come across in the world? You're going to find aggravated people who are maybe angry and not very nice and not very pleasant to you, because that's the energy you're putting out there, because the thoughts start your energy and then you are energy and you put it out there, and they're the people who come your way. But if you think, actually, everybody's lovely, everybody's really nice, and even if they're not, it's not actually really going to affect me because that's their stuff, then actually you see the world in a whole different way. And how easy is it to walk in a room, say you go to a classroom situation, a teaching situation, or a party where the room is already full, and you walk in and the room stops, and you immediately think, I feel really ugly, they were staring at me, my hair's not right, or they didn't want me to walk in the room. Whereas if you change your thoughts, you can think, everybody's staring at me because I've just made such an impact in the room. Probably because I've just fallen over on the way in. But instantly change how you feel about yourself. Absolutely. I love what Mark Twain says. He says, drag your thoughts away from your troubles by the ears, by the heels, or by any other way that you can manage it. And you just literally got to get rid of them, haven't you? Change them around. And I think it is practice, practice, practice until you know how to do it, and until you think, I'm not accepting that thought in my head, I'm just going to change it straight away. But as we say, you need to be aware of them first. So spend some time each day just listening to those internal resident lodgers in your head and listen to what they're saying and don't accept it. And trust me, most of it is not true. Like, I think 95% of the stuff that thing is telling you is not true. And the more we can learn to reprogram it and say nice words over ourselves, our words produce our thoughts. So if we can treat each other or treat ourselves like we would our loved ones, when you change your thought patterns, you change your energy, don't you? Change your vibration. Well, a sizable body of research exploring the nature of consciousness, carried on for more than 30 years in prestigious scientific institutions around the world, shows that thoughts are capable of affecting everything from the simplest machine to the most complex living beings. This evidence suggests that human thoughts and intentions are actual physical somethings with astonishing power to change our world. Every thought we have is tangible energy with the power to transform. A thought is not only a thing, a thought is a thing that influences other things.
That's so true. Do you remember that time? Remember one of our very, very first talks, we talked about the rice experiment? And remember the scientists, they put a jar of white rice, cooked white rice, in one jar and a jar in the other. And the children in the classroom went over to one jar of rice and went, "We love you, you're beautiful, we really love you." Saying really beautiful words to a jar of rice, but with intention. And the other jar, they said nasty things, didn't they? We don't like you, you're awful, you're horrible. And one went mouldy and yucky, and the other one stayed fine. I mean, how amazing is that?
And there was another experiment that IKEA did where they had those plants, and children were encouraged to come in and speak loving words to plants in one section and then hateful words in another. And the plants really quickly died that were in the section where the children said hateful words over them. Thoughts are energy.
Mm-hmm.
Words are energy. And the thing we have to be very careful of doing is translating our thoughts into words.
And it's a really empowering concept when you get to grips with it, that you can actually do something about all of that noise inside your head. And it seems a little bit daunting to begin with, because you've been in one pattern of behaviour for so long. That's how you're programmed. But we can reprogram, and it's so worth taking the time to do it, writing down those thoughts, being really aware of what you're thinking, and then slowly starting to change it, turning it around. What negative words are you saying to yourself that you can turn it around into a positive way of thinking? Even if you wake up in the morning and go, "I'm really tired," rather than say, "I'm really tired," because that's going to make you really tired. Say, "I'm really looking forward to the opportunities of today. What's today going to bring? I'm enjoying the surprises," or "I'm going to get my second wind." Just puts you on that slightly different trajectory. Only by 1%, that's all you need, 1%. You go off in a different way.
And I think lockdown was quite a testing time for us all in New Zealand. We did 5 weeks of it, but I know in England and other places around the world, you've been in lockdown for a very long time, 3 months, I think, in England. So then when you're in lockdown in situations where you're with a partner you're not getting on with children, being children where you don't get a break, you're very much in your thoughts the whole time and there's no escape. Mm-hmm. So where normally you'd have time to be with you and nurture yourself, you're not getting it. But if you can get outside and do some exercise, go and do so. There's a lovely quote that says, "All truly great thoughts are conceived by walking." If you can get out of the house, give yourself some space to think about you, to nurture yourself, to nurture your thoughts, and just have that resident lodger, train your resident lodger in your head to start to say really kind things about yourself. You are so lovable. You're in a difficult situation right now. It's not going to last. There will be a way through it. And I remember actually being in one of my darkest times, really bleak, really black, and seeing no hope. And then starting to speak, "There's no hope in my life. I'm never going to get out of this situation. How can it change?" Because you can't foresee how things are going to change, can you? And then my sister used to say to me, "There will be a way. There will be a way. You won't always be in this situation." And that's such a powerful thing to know, because I wasn't always in that situation. And now we're living in a life where we truly are joyful inside. How do you get there? If you don't have somebody saying to you those words, "There will be a way, you won't always be in this situation," allow your resident lodger to say it to you. Train your resident lodger to say it to you. Every day you wake up and say, "I can't see a way out of this situation, but there will be a way. I will not always be in this situation."
It's a really nice line which just says, "This too shall pass."
Yeah, that's
this
lovely.
Too shall pass. And just keep repeating it, "This too shall pass." Because that's one thing we can guarantee, everything does change. Everything will pass eventually, even no matter what feeling you've got inside. You may be feeling absolute despair and absolute sorrow. It passes. It's not there forever. The plants grow, the trees go. We're forever evolving. Our thoughts are the same. Look around in nature. Our thoughts and our situations are the same. Can I have one more quote?
You can have as many as you want.
"Life is a reflection of your thinking. If you don't like what you see, the only thing to be changed are your thoughts." And it's so true, because life is life. This is it. This is it. This is what's happening right now in your life, whatever your situation is. Now, you can either think really negatively about it, or you can turn it around into what. And please, we come from a place where we've been in absolute despair and absolute hideous situations. And I was actually thinking about this when we were talking about our topic today. My life on paper now, if you wrote down how some of the hideous things that are happening, and then I look about when I was in the deepest depression, like say in my 30s, if we actually wrote down on paper, say my early 30s, my life would have looked way rosier then than it does now on paper. Yeah, I was in such a dark place. My thoughts were bad. I couldn't get out of that. I didn't have the tools and equipment. I didn't have the knowledge. But as soon as I started learning about these things and putting it into practice, like what we're saying to you today, write your thoughts down, start to change, and just start really small, changing, because it doesn't happen overnight. It's, as you said, Sue, it's practice. And we still practice each and every day now, don't we? And so now, my life on paper may look way worse now. However, it's because my thoughts are different.
Well, you've got the resources to deal with it, haven't you? So actually, between us, we've probably gone through 6 at least major life-changing events in the last 3 weeks. And if I'd have been in this situation without the tools I've got now, I wouldn't have dealt with any of it.
No.
I'd have completely messed up absolutely everything. And it's hard, and we support each other. But with the tools to change your thoughts, you can actually be in tragic situations, traumatic situations. You can be in adversity, you can be in conflict, because life is full of it. But the thing about changing your thoughts is that you can change the situation you're in. You're never going to get rid of adversity. We're going to confront death, sickness, abuse. We're going to confront broken relationships, things that we can't control. But in those situations, we can change the way we respond to them, and therefore we can change our life. And we create the positive energy by changing those thoughts, and we then live in positive energy. And as you say, we then attract that back into our life, don't we?
Absolutely.
We are the sum total of our 5 closest friends. Who are we attracting into our life? Are we attracting people with positive energy that surround us with love and compassion? Or are we attracting negative people? If we change that energy, we change our life.
Absolutely.
And we're living examples of it, because we've not had straightforward lives by any means. We've been to the darkest of places. So if you're listening thinking, well, that's all very good, but you don't understand the situation we're in. No, we don't understand. We're not you. We haven't walked through your shoes. We haven't walked your path. So we sit alongside you in it, because our paths were different, but we do get suffering where we both wanted to take our lives. It was that bad. So we get it. And if you're in that situation right now where you feel that there is no hope, that you can't see a way through, contact a helpline, find someone to talk to, contact your GP, go and find a listening ear, confide in a friend, let somebody know, but don't be alone on that journey, because there's support out there.
And yeah, just start speaking nicely to yourself.
So we are doing Facebook Lives every Friday with a topic that we discuss, and we are releasing a podcast every Tuesday at 10:30 New Zealand time. And the podcast on Tuesday released varies from our Pods with Posh and Pool to our teenPOD or our manPOD. And you can go onto any app to find the podcast, any podcast app, Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, we're on YouTube as well. Tune in on Friday at 10:30 for our lives. Listen to our podcasts on Tuesdays or replay them.
And if there's anything you'd like us to speak about, then just let us know, because we love hearing from you. So just message either of us or Pods with Posh and Pool, and we will see what we can do.
And give us feedback, leave comments and share with your friends.
Thank you. Love, light and peace. Bye bye.